What's up, y'all? This is Ty. I was watching Netflix yesterday, Monday, and I sat down and watched a three-part documentary that I thought was interesting, and that was Killer Inside the Mind of Aaron Hernandez. Now, I know some of you are saying, who's Aaron Hernandez? Maybe some of you don't know, so just in case, I'm going to let you know who he is, who he was. Aaron Hernandez was a football player. He played tight end for the New England Patriots. This, on the surface, this is a guy who had it all. He's young, he's an athlete, he's playing on the New England Patriots. He has a beautiful fiance, beautiful daughter, big mansion, this $40 million contract with the NFL. I mean, on surface, this is the life. This is the life. And it all comes crashing down when he is accused and charged with the shooting murder of 27-year-old Odin Lloyd. Now, this was crazy, and this documentary touches on that and a number of things. We learn about Aaron Hernandez's upbringing. We learn about his personal life, some things in his personal life, some things might be, some things in his personal life. We learn about his family. We learn about, how his mind worked and some of the things that he went through. Now, one thing which I know when the story first broke and it was people saying, this guy was connected to this murder, I remember a coworker of mine saying, well, you can take a person out of the streets, but you can't take the streets out of a person. He grew up rough. He grew up street. That is incorrect according to this documentary. He did not grow up in the hood in a drug-infested neighborhood with all this crime and all this other thing. He was actually in a two-parent home. He grew up in Bristol, Connecticut, an all-American town. He was the all-American boy, all-American athlete. His father was a local star, they say in the documentary. And on the surface, things seem to be great. But of course, behind closed doors, his parents had their own issues. There was talks of abuse between the father and the kids and the mom, and there was a lot of things that went on. One of the things that stuck out to me was there was talk of what his mom did when the father passed. And when the father passed away, his mom moved on with a relative's husband, his cousin's husband to be exact. And this is a cousin that was dying of cancer, and the cousin would begin to be very close with Aaron. And I believe Aaron moved out at an early age and moved in with that cousin, and that's where he went on this path. So pretty much they were saying that, growing up, he pretty much was an all-star athlete, really cool guy, friendly guy, and, just on that path to greatness. He could play other sports, but football was the main one, and he was on that path. And they even dwelled into he went down to Florida before getting this big contract. He was in Florida, and some fights that he got into down there and got away with. So he always had this violent streak, and he was always this big guy. Always had this violent streak and these outbursts and this bad temper. But now, what was crazy to me was, like I said, he was arrested in 2013 for the murder of Odin Lloyd. And this was really crazy. Sadly, Odin Lloyd was only 27 years old. I remember seeing like a news story on him where his body was missing, and where he went missing, and they found him, in this industrial park. And then he was connected to Aaron Hernandez. I knew that Aaron Hernandez knew who he was and that they were friends. But one thing I didn't know, I guess I wasn't paying attention, is how close they actually were, because they were practically, brother-in-laws, because the fiance of Aaron Hernandez, her sister was dating Odin Lloyd. So that is crazy. So the documentary even shows how, once he was charged with this and and arrested for this, how during the trial and everything, these are two sisters, Cheyenne Jenkins, I believe her name is, and I forget the name of Odin's girlfriend. They're sisters, and Cheyenne chose Aaron over her sister, and I'm believing this is knowing full well that her fiance may have had something to do with killing her sister's boyfriend. And I'm like, this is crazy. So in this documentary, they just show how reckless and careless he is, and how, I mean, the evidence that was mounted up against him, it was just so obvious. The fact that this young man, Odin Lloyd, only knew him and lived in a different town and was found dead in a town where the only person he knew was Aaron Hernandez. Also, what was crazy was the video footage. They have video footage of Aaron Hernandez with the two other guys who they stated helped him murder Odin. And they had video footage of that. There was video footage of him look like he's holding a gun. They matched the car that he rented. Now, you're an NFL player, famous, popular. You rent a car. This car was proven to be at the scene of the crime. And not only that, there was shells in the car. Shells in the car. Gun shells. Oh my goodness. It was just so much mounting evidence up against this dude. And his argument was that his defense was, he was saying he didn't have anything to do with it, and that in fact it was those other two guys, and that he was afraid of them and intimidated. But that doesn't work, and that didn't make any sense, because the videotapes told a different story. And it told that Aaron, you see shortly after the murder, Aaron has these guys in his home. They're around his baby. So you weren't in fear of these guys. These guys helped you do this crime. And I thought this was just crazy, and shows what where his mindset was. Like he was just, this was just, they said he was a sociopath, and I'm like, I mean, I could see that. Now, there was other things that were interesting in this, and that was the allegations that Aaron Hernandez was a homosexual. And there's someone who went to high school with him who's in this documentary, and he's stating that they had a relationship in high school. And there's some that are disputing him and calling him a clout chaser, and like trying to just be on the bandwagon, because we really don't know. It doesn't seem to be that they had a relationship or friendship out after high school was over with. So maybe, who knows? Maybe, is he telling the truth? We don't know. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But I know for myself, when they brought in the homosexuality and all that, I said, what in the world does this have to do with the fact that this man had an innocent man killed and took this man's life? What does his sexuality have to do with anything? That was what I was saying when they got to that part. I said, okay, he was possibly gay, closeted, so what was the connection? Well, basically, the documentary was trying to state that his homosexuality caused the rage in him and caused the outburst and the not his homosexuality, the fact that he had to suppress it and keep it a secret, and that he didn't want people to know that he was struggling with that, is what caused the rage and the outburst and the, I mean, I don't know. I wasn't buying that. I was like, I don't know about that. I mean, we don't know. But then it was also brought up in this documentary that it could have been, the rage from him being abused as a child and things that happened to him as a child, as we learned in this documentary. Or it could have been the damage, the brain damage from playing football, and it was a disease they called CTE, which is some sort of brain disease, which causes outbursts and change in behavior and just not connecting things. And I thought to myself when they said that, I said, now that might be it, because of the erratic behavior and all these other things. I'm like, that could be the issue right there. That could definitely be what caused him to do things. Because what I also found puzzling and crazy was, what were the real motives behind this? What did Odin Lloyd have on him? What made him want to kill Odin Lloyd? And it was kind of creepy, because they also played they showed the text message that Odin sent his sister saying, listen, I'm going to be with you know who, almost as if he was afraid, as if he knew something was going on. Something was going to happen to him. And it was kind of eerie, where He even sent a text to Aaron saying, "Hey, are we still on for tonight?" And I'm like, wow, he's texting him and basically confirming his own murder, not even realizing it, because sadly, Aaron picked him up with the other two guys. They took him to that location, shot him, I believe, 6 times. He died there, and they went on about their business. Now, what another thing that really struck me was the loyalty that Aaron's fiance had for him. She's in the courtroom every day. She's by his side. They have footage of her on the phone with him, talking to him. She seemed to somehow be the level-headed one out of the two, but she was ride or die. This girl was ride or die for him. And some people argued, yeah, she wanted that money, but I'm saying no. This girl, even to this day, she still sticks up for him. He's long gone. She still sticks up for him. She still defends him. And the fact that, I mean, she was there till the very end. And she's in court, basically covering for him when they ask her certain questions, which was obvious when there was a part in the documentary where they show the gun or whatever. And they ask her, what do you see in that video footage of him? And she's like, I don't know what that is. It looks like a black blur. I'm like, come on, girl, you know that was a gun. You knew that was a gun. Like, it was just puzzling and amazing to me how it was so easy to crack this case, because everything was out there in the open. And, while he was on trial for that, he was awaiting another trial for being in connection with a failed drive-by shooting of 3 young men. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Oh, this is crazy. And how they connected him to that. The car that fled that scene was in the garage of his cousin, the cousin that was loyal to him. So I'm like, wow, this guy is crazy. And then even that, they're saying that the reason that he had those guys, why he killed those guys, was because I think in the bar somebody spilled a drink on him and all that. And the guy that was with him, his name was, what was the guy that? Alexander Bradley. And Alexander Bradley testified against him, saying that yes, Aaron shot these guys. He was enraged and he shot them at a stoplight when we were in traffic because he was mad at what went down in the club. But then he was disputed. Alexander Bradley was disputed because he also said that Aaron Davis then shot him in the face, nearly killing him, but he didn't. And then his story, he was convincing at first, but then when they flipped the tables on him and started cross-examining Alexander Bradley, he came off a little sketchy and a bit of a liar. And that caused Alexander Bradley, that caused Aaron Hernandez to be acquitted of those charges for the double of the murders on with the guys in the car. He didn't get charged with that, but he was found guilty of the murder of Odin Lloyd. And with that, he still seemed to be optimistic that he was going to get out. But just days after he was acquitted of the double homicide, Aaron Hernandez committed suicide by hanging himself. And there's all these disputes on why he hung himself. He was struggling with his sexuality. I'm thinking maybe it could have been the guilt of what he did, or, because who knows? Or was it he knew he was going to spend his life in there? But another thing they said is there's a strange law up there in Massachusetts, in that New England area, an abatement law, where if somebody who was accused and charged of something and they do an appeal, if they die during that appeal, the charges are dropped. And they were saying that he did that so that his fiance could collect the NFL money because the charges were dropped against him. But we know that wasn't going to work, because the NFL would have fought his fiance tooth and nail. It would have dragged out forever in court. She wasn't getting no money. She wasn't going to get no money. They would have dragged that out. She would have had to pay lawyers to keep this going. And by the time they would have dragged that on, she wouldn't have been able to afford to keep going back and forth. But anyway, that abatement law got overturned too, and he was yet again convicted of killing Mr. Odin, because Mr. Odin's family went before Congress and fought to have that law changed, and they said it was outdated, and so it was changed. So I thought this whole thing was just, it was mind blowing. It was sad. It was shocking, some of the stuff that I was seeing, and just crazy. I felt sorry for Aaron's daughter. I felt sorry for Aaron's daughter in ways I can't really say I felt. I don't know. It was just, his story was is a real tragedy, because this is someone who seemed to have everything material wise anyway, and it just something in his mind. I guess that wasn't enough. He had to live this double life. It's like the dude had this big mansion, and he's living over here, this beautiful mansion. And then he also had like this apartment where he would go and smoke weed. So he was like living two lives. One that was this thug, and the other was this all American athlete. And another thing I found crazy, we're going to go a little bit back, when he was arrested initially for the murder of Odin, the fans, how they behaved, because when he was arrested, they handcuffed him, so he was like this, but they put the T-shirt over him. People were posing like that, calling it the air. I'm like, come on. I thought that was crazy, but that goes to show you the power of celebrity, and how people just look at these celebrities as this larger than life thing. And he had his supporters, he had his people who believed in him, but I'm telling you, the evidence that was mounted against him, it was like, this dude did it. He, in my eyes, all of the stuff, even the double homicides that he got off from, that he didn't get charged with, he did those too. He was definitely involved in that. It's just that the person who testified against him, Mr. Alexander Bradley, was a shady character himself, and he was incredible. But that was the only thing that got him off of that. But I mean, I enjoyed this documentary. What are your thoughts? Do you think that Aaron did all these things, the violent outbursts, because he was a closeted homosexual, or was it because he was abused by as a child, and he had a rough childhood, like a sad childhood? Or was it the CTE, which was the brain damage that he got, and the disease that he got from playing football? Or was it a combination of it all? Maybe it was a combination of it all. Maybe it was all of that. Maybe it was all of that. And there was one thing I didn't agree with. It was something they were trying to blame the NFL. I didn't see where the NFL was at fault on anything, in my opinion. I didn't see where they were at fault at anything. I mean, come on. He was a grown man. He made his own decisions. He did certain things. Maybe perhaps they were saying they could have did it better. I don't know. I felt like, I didn't think it was the NFL's fault, but I think maybe those other factors they mentioned, perhaps that is what it was. I think maybe it was all three of those things: the CTE, the childhood, and the allegations. Because we really don't know. These are just allegations. These allegations of him being homosexual. We don't know. And in the documentary, we hear him on the phone, and he's made disparaging remarks about gays and transsexuals and all of that. So I mean, we don't know. We don't know. It's just a lot of things we won't know. Just like we don't know why he really killed Odin Lloyd. What did Odin Lloyd have on him? Did he know something about him? Some were saying it was the sexuality. Maybe Odin caught him doing something. You gotta kill the man for that? I'm like, it was just crazy. Oh, and then there's Jason Baez, who was Aaron Hernandez's attorney in the trial about the double homicide. And he's discussed it, although he participated in this Netflix documentary. He's discussed it because he's basically saying it was a cash grab, and he wouldn't have participated in it if he knew they were going to throw in that homosexuality stuff, because he's saying that is not it. Aaron killed himself because he was suffering from CTE. It had nothing to do with no homosexuality and none of that stuff. So he was pissed off about that. He didn't like the fact that this friend from high school was in the documentary, and so that's what he was saying. He didn't like that. And one last thing, I did like how the documentary also put some spotlight and focused on the victims and told us a little bit about these victims because we didn't really know a lot about the other two that were killed in that car, and we didn't really know the full side of Odin Lloyd. And that I like that they showed his family and his teammates. He played in a lower league of football. You know, he wasn't a big NFL player, but he was a local town hero, and he was loved in his neighborhood, and his family loved him. And we got to learn about his morals and his life. And sadly, he was cut short. It was cut short at 27. And then what's crazy is then Aaron, when he kills himself, he was just 27. So it was just sadness all around. What a documentary. A lot of my coworkers were talking about it, and I said I just wanted to talk about it. So that's pretty much it. That's what I summed up. I mean, there's still some things not answered. And I wonder how the two sisters, the Jenkins sisters, how their relationships are now with Aaron being gone. And I wonder if Cheyenne, I think that's her name, if her and her sister have mended fences, because that's tough. Like, that's crazy. Especially if you saw the documentary, his fiance is on this side supporting him, supporting Aaron, and her sister is on that side supporting Odin and Odin's family. Just craziness. Just two sisters just torn up. It just did so much damage to so many people. But yeah, that's it. That's my view on this documentary. I pretty much spoiled it, didn't I? I'm sorry. Sorry if I spoiled it for some people. Maybe whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my take on it. Tell me your take. Tell me what you thought of this documentary. And please like, comment, and subscribe. All right. Till next time, I'm out. Be blessed. Have a good one.